Witaj na moim kanale, bardzo dziękuję Ci, że wszedłeś i będziesz mógł obejrzeć ten materiał. Chciałbym także, żebyś mógł subskrybować ten kanał, jeżeli Tobie ten filmik się spodoba, udostępnić go swoim znajomym, gdyż jest on dopiero w fazie takiej rozwojowej. I jeżeli byś spodobał to nagranie, proszę wpłać darowiznę na fundację, którą prowadzę, dzięki czemu będę mógł ten kanał jeszcze szybciej rozwijać dzięki Twojej pomocy. Wszystkiego dobrego i miłego oglądania.
Okay, I think we can start our side event. I would like to welcome you all here and online for our side event that it's part of this conference in Vienna today, so the 27th of May. We had today first sessions of the conference of the Malta chairmanship in the OSCE organization. The topic of this today's conference is media literacy and democracy. This is it's a first supplementary meeting. It's a second. There is going to be a third one in June, of course. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, it's second supplementary meeting in Vienna. So for those who don't know, we have like 3 supplementary meetings in the half of this year, and we're going to have like a 2 weeks conference in Warsaw, in Warsaw. So we had opening session, we had a discussion. Maybe Elizabeth gonna give some remarks in the end, also about our session and also about the main conference today. But we're gonna speak on like a follow-up for this conference for our event. And the name of our event is Resilience of Civil Society Using Social Media, but basic new media, but we can of course extend it to more discussion, because today we had discussion and we have some questions. Who should decide what is information, disinformation? It should be the corporate, the big tech, should be the governments to establish some regulations, or it should be like free, or there should be some fact checkers, and if there are fact checkers, does the fact checkers should be financed by corporations or the states if it's an issue. Yes, and I'm going to introduce our speakers today. We're going to have like some topics that we're going to discuss as a framework for discussion, but of course we can have a general topic. We had like between 2020 and 2001, of course, the pandemic, and we have a lot of the first time that the fact checkers we had some first fact checkers that checked if somebody is complying to the main narrative, the corporate narrative, for instance, for the public health narrative for the state. And then we have like 2 years of in Europe war between Ukraine and Russia. And we have then fact checkers for disinformation and misinformation regarding the war in the third states countries, for instance. So, and of course, there are some social issues like fighting public institutions by citizens, so on. And hopefully we're going to have a discussion about how the citizens with phones, with different technical devices that are organized or not organized, was fighting this pressure narrative from the big guys, And I will like to introduce the speakers of our event today. We have Mrs. Elizabeth Sabaditsch-Wolff, and she's representing the association or the movement Pax Europa from Germany. And she's of course she's well known attending these conferences. So those who know who's watching these conferences know Mrs. Elizabeth, and she had also good remarks today. And so hopefully she's gonna share those. We have Tomasz Jankowski on my left. So we are 3 offline, and we have two guests online that we are going to introduce in a second. And Tomasz is representing a Polish NGO, which is called the Andrzej Leper Citizen Liberties Foundation. Maybe he can say a few words about it later. Then we are going to have online Mr. Dr. Mateusz Piskorski, who is the editor of the Without Censorship YouTube channel, but also a former politician and a political scientist, and also a person that have had problems with the mainstream narrative, and very crucial. Maybe can also share this about it later. And the last one that is from Norway is Mr. Marius Reikeros. I think the most famous lawyer with family issues, transborder issues in the whole world, and mostly known by his advocacy and for the family rights, children rights, and non-interference of the public institution to the private and family life. So we're going to have like different issues, but it's going to be the main issues is how we can fight it and who controls the information and who decides what is truth or not. So not further ado, I'm going to start with Mr. Tomasz Szynkowski. And he gonna say maybe a few words about himself and about what he's doing in the foundation, and also the media that you're working also with Mateusz Piskorski. And then we're gonna follow up with Mateusz, Marius, and then Elizabeth gonna have sum up everything, and maybe we'll have some discussion. So the floor is yours, Tomasz.
Okay, thank you. I hope that you hear me good. About foundation later, because there is a part of my speech. So the first question is, social media is or not a chance for defense of freedom of speech, for media, free media, not state, for example, and not from corporation umbrella. And the main problem started, of course, on the pandemic era, and later after start of special military operation on Ukraine in Donbas. Yes, there is no mistake. Special military operation. I said because these words in Poland, for example, in our media, that was like crime. If you tell special military operation, that was automatically like crime. And there was a start this situation which we want to fight against this situation. Because there is enough that you not so strong support the Ukraine military, Ukraine government, and you are automatically Russian spy, not supporter, but spy. And there is if this campaign in Polish media is true. I think that 10% of Polish society are Russian spies. And the problem is because after you are accused that you are a Russian spy, nobody can discuss with you. Nobody can won't discuss with your views, but only see this Russian spies, and it's no discuss, and of course there is these people are cancelled from debate. If we want watch for Polish political debate on these highly levels, we can see that the civic platform accused the Law and Justice that they are Russian spies, and of course Law and Justice accused the civic platform that they are Russian spies. So the effect is, and of course earlier also the Russian spies was in Poland, for example, from the Democratic Left Alliance. So the effect is that the Russians push Poland to the NATO. Russians push Poland to the European Union, and of course, Russians invade the American soldiers to Poland. So there is effect. If it's true, there is effect. Of course, the social media, new media are chance, but you know, unfortunately, after start a new phase of war in Ukraine, for example, the OBWE, Interior Security Agency, start to block any media, independent media. Blocked not Russian, Polish media, for example, Myśl Polska, the newspaper, which have about 80 years history. And of course, there was against Polish law. And in the next months, in the next years, the majority of these portals win against the ABW in next cards. But the blockades is still now not in all providers, but the part of providers still blocked the Polish sites, for example. So of course, in last year, I think that the European public opinion don't know about that. We have a new law against spying in Poland, and there is crime is not only spying but also disinformation, and there is a reason why that was very hard to me when I on our main event today, when we discussed about fighting against disinformation, because I see and we can see how this fight is in Poland and how effects of this fight. So you know, there is against Polish constitution, and I think not only Polish constitution. I think there is against constitutions of all civilizations states. There is a quote in our constitution. Everyone, there is a 56 article, everyone is guaranteed the freedom to express their views and obtain and disseminate information. Everyone. You know what it mean in lawyer language. Everyone is including foreign agents. But you know, in this situation, our mission for independent journalists and also for our foundation is defend the freedom of speech, defend the constitutional laws of Polish people. And there is a reason why we decide to create the foundation. Not all reasons, but one main reason, I think. The next problem is the enemies of freedom of speech. Unfortunately, who have in Poland the support and also finance support from Polish state, of course, from Western propaganda agency, for example, from George Soros and his company. And there is people who earn money, for example, for attacked for people like us who have other views, for example, to the pandemic, to the war in Ukraine, and that's his job. they drop to the fight against people who have other views. I think there's because we of course we looking for the other sources of media of informations, and the most popular from this media is YouTube, for example. But the problem is with YouTube is, for example, for me, are the rules of publications, which are it's dependent of will of owner of YouTube, but there is no other ways, and there is a problem with freedom of speech and using social media. Our foundation, Civil Liberty Foundation, is created, of course, because we need the defense. We need possibility to defend our good names. We want fight against enemies of freedom of speech, for his defamation, us and other independent journalists. And of course, we want to support the people who are victims of this policy. You know, there is a tradition of OSCE that we are looking for solutions. And I think that our solution, the first step to defend freedom of speech is, for example, bill or statement of our organization to be against any laws against which are against information policy and etc. So that freedom or not freedom, there is only one alternative in my opinion. And it's all from me. Excuse me for my English. It's not very often used. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomasz. I'm gonna only shortly follow up what we are talking about, because people here, so the diplomats and the NGOs, are asking how we can fight with this information. So the Polish way of fighting this information is putting a new article in the article regarding the espionage. So taking the secret information and giving to the foreign power. And they added Article 9 I think in July last year or June. I'm gonna read it, and this is not a comedy, and this is not it's not being a stand-up. It's a real law in Poland. So I'm gonna read it, and you can decide it if it's how do you think it. So espionage in Poland in Article 130.9 is also whoever taking part in activities of a foreign intelligence service or acting on its behalf conducts disinformation. Consisting in disseminating false or misleading information with the aim of causing serious disruptions in the system of economy of the Republic of Poland, an allied state or international organization whose the Republic of Poland is a member of or inducing a public authority of Republic of Poland, and allied state or international organization of which the Republic of Poland is a member of, to take or refrain from taking specific actions shall be punishable by imprisonment for a period of not less than 8 years.
One word.
Yes.
It's too many conditions in this article. Nobody understands.
So I watched this legislation, and in the beginning there wasn't also added more that you can be unconscious spy. making disinformation. So, for instance, we are on the organization in OSCE, and there are some Russian or Ukraine or other Azerbaijan, other NGOs. And if we talk with this person from this NGO, and this and this person is saying something that you are, then disseminating this in Poland, you could be convicted for espionage, for disinformation. Of course, it is serious, so on. Because of some critics and some civic criticize of this, they change it. But as you heard it, it's a law that it's something that, from the legal point of view, it's very kind of a, I don't know how we can say it. It's something that I don't think it's going to be used, but if it's going to be used, it's going to be misused. So now we're going to move to Mateusz Piskorski, who has that I think he's a person who was creator of this kind of law, because we are saying that this is Lex Piskorski law, because Mateusz was in 2016 held by the International Interior Security Agency and held after accusations in the jail for 3 years without criminal charges. And the United Nations Agency for Human Rights applied for the Polish government to release him. And after paying after these 3 years, he went out, and that's why he's online, because he can go out outside Poland. So this law was and he's accused of espionage, using his as a political scientist to mislead public opinion in the interest of Russia and the Republic of China. Republic of China. So, Mateusz, could you give your insight in your case and your view, because now you are activist as a journalist in this against censorship YouTube, and could you give from your point and from your generalization some remarks? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your invitation. I'm also a member of editorial board of Myśl Polska, Polish Thought Weekly magazine. Tomasz has mentioned the case of Myśl Polska. The website of this weekly magazine has been unlawfully, illegally blocked by Polish Internal Security Service just after the so-called special military operation started back in 2022. Concerning all the issues we are discussing today, I think it's quite important to know that if you read the main goals of OSCE representative on freedom of the media, you will find there a lot of issues that remain unaddressed in the current world. I mean, you have mentioned the different kinds of censorship, corporate and government censorship, which have very dangerously evolved since the start of the pandemics, and then they have even evolved more rapidly since the start of the current phase of war in Ukraine. Nevertheless, it started a little bit earlier. Of course, you have mentioned my case. I will just stress that I was accused of trying to influence public opinion in Poland, which is actually to voice my opinions, to voice those ideas and those assessments which were not in line with the official policy of Polish government. But there are also other states, other member states of OSCE, which violate by their deeds, by their actions undertaken against the freedom of speech, which violate basic rules and standards, not only the ones of OSCE, but also the ones of the Council of Europe, of European Union, because some of them are member states of European Union, as well as the basic standards of United Nations. One has to mention here some very important cases, because I think that the issue we are talking about, all those let's say, charges of disinformation and so on. It has all started back in 2014, 2015 in Ukraine and in the Baltic countries. Let me mention some cases. In Ukraine, just in 2014, when it all started, you had the case of Artyom Buzila, a well-known Ukrainian journalist who was kept in prison, in jail, without any court sentence, without any verdict, for almost 2 years. In the Baltic states, one of civic activists, one of very well-known people there in Lithuania, I'm just speaking about Lithuania, Algirdas Paleckis is now in prison. Algirdas Paleckis got, if I'm not wrong, 6-year sentence for espionage, of course. And his espionage was that he was trying to collect some materials and documents concerning the year 1991 in Vilnius. I mean, the crisis and, of course, the riots in Vilnius back in 1991. Collecting data and info also about the judges and prosecutors who sentenced some of the participants of those riots from the Soviet side, let's say, for life sentences even, yeah? So that's another case. You have cases of Alexander Gaponenko in Latvia, was charged of organizing conferences for journalists and voicing his own opinions as well. You have cases such as Sergei Seredenko in Estonia, who again organized, by the way, he participated several times at OSCE summits and events in Warsaw, in Vienna, in other countries. Yes, he's a well-known human rights activist who should be known also by the participants of OSCE events as the one of today. So we have lots of people particularly in Central European countries who are deprived of their fundamental rights and liberties. This is the situation we live in. And of course, once more, it has become even worse after 2020, but the problem existed also before. The problem is getting worse and worse, not every year, every month, I would say, because different means of censorship and different violations are unfortunately unnoticed by those bodies, including international bodies, who should pay more attention to what is happening now in several European countries. Then we have one more important thing you have already mentioned several times. It's about, I mean, the meeting of OSCE we are participating in is devoted to media literacy. Yes, it's of course very important. I mean, the whole literacy as such is important, not only the media literacy, of course, but unfortunately, several governments of OSCE member states are very far from being literate when it comes to basic notions. You have mentioned one notion, disinformation. What is disinformation? Do we have any definitions of disinformation? Well, I don't know how is the weather now in Vienna, but here in Poland it's quite sunny, as you might see on the camera, and the sun is shining. And if I would tell you now that the weather in Poland is cloudy, of course, that could be termed as disinformation. Yeah, because it concerns facts. But if I would say now that the weather is ugly, that is not any kind of disinformation. That would be just my opinion. Perhaps I prefer cloudy weather, and it's my private opinion. I have a right to voice. Yeah. So still we don't have any clear definition of basic notions which are used, misused, and abused by several European governments to limit the freedom of speech, to limit basic liberties of the citizens. What can we do about that? Because, in the event, in our event, you are asking also a kind of question how we can fight governmental or corporate propaganda. I think that you go too far with that question. First and foremost, we should ask ourselves not how to fight the propaganda of governments, of corporations, and so on, but how to keep basic liberties, how to defend ourselves as independent media from the governmental pressure, from repressions, and so on and so on. How to avoid double standards as well. Still, Russia, for instance, Russia is a member of OSCE. Of course, almost all countries of the so-called collective West had voiced their condemn for, let's say, murders and killings of Russian journalists there. And I agree that it was a problem, for instance, with some well-known journalists like Anna Politkovskaya and so on. But why do they not mention the fate of Daria Dugina, a well-known journalist and correspondent, a Russian one, killed, and that was actually confirmed by some representatives of Ukrainian special forces, secret forces, killed in a terrorist attack which was orchestrated by Kiev, by the authorities in Kiev. And I just want to remind you that Ukraine is a member state of OSCE as well. Why don't they mention in the so-called West, why don't they mention the fate of Vladan Tatarsky, a blogger, a war correspondent, who was killed in a terrorist attack in St. Petersburg quite recently by Ukrainian secret police, by Ukrainian special forces operating or ordering at least a terrorist attack in the city center of St. Petersburg. Yeah. So the problem here is that unfortunately we are going deeper and deeper into double standards. Okay? We are forgetting about basic laws, basic liberties guaranteed on the international level, but also guaranteed theoretically on the national level in the constitutions of our countries. We just tend to use the very important notion of liberty of the media, freedom of speech, to criticize our opponents, I mean, geopolitical opponents. The states use that to criticize their geopolitical opponents and ignore it when it comes to those facts and those issues which are more or less, let's say, not in line with their geopolitical agenda or foreign policy agenda. That's why I really hope that the conclusions and the participation, yes, the participation of Pantarey Foundation, of Citizen Liberties Foundation here, of other NGOs who are just voicing their concern about what is happening now in this field, will be able to somehow affect the ambassadors, the diplomatic representatives of OSCE member states, and perhaps also the OSCE representative on freedom of the media will notice in the future that, well, it's not only authoritarian, the so-called authoritarian regimes who have real problems with the freedom of speech and freedom of media, but also the so-called democratic countries like my country, Poland, like the countries I have mentioned, like also other European Union member states. They also do have such problem. The problem is growing. The problem is threatening the basic principles and values of OSCE. That's why I really hope and deeply hope that OSCE and its institutions will react not in a selective way to all those issues and all those cases we discuss and mention here, but will do that without using the double standards. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, Mateusz, for your insight based on your own experience, but also you gave like a political scientist's view of the problem. And let's move to this one of those democracies, one of the best democracies in the world, so Norway. And with Marius Rekeros, who is the, I think, a pain, I don't know, I'm gonna say in where, of the Norwegian government, because he is demolishing this public relations of Kingdom of Norway. That showing that those institutions of this Nordic country has also flaws. So, Marius, could you share your experience? You can comment, of course, what you said, but you can share your experience. What is the problem with citizens using media, new media, social media, with the Norwegian authorities? Like I said, are the best, like we know, of course. Thank you. Please put on your microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to your seminar. I'm very grateful to take part in this conference, even though it's online from Vilnius. I heard the former speaker talked about Vilnius and other Baltic countries. Right now I'm in Vilnius, and yeah, the weather here is beautiful too. But it's like you said, it's obviously my personal opinion if I consider it to be ugly, if that's my opinion. So I think it was a very great example for what, because there is no clear definition of disinformation. However, I would, and I'm very happy and very impressed with the former speakers. I think they was right to the core of the points, because we're talking about double standards. And I would like to focus on double standards in my own country, Norway, which I've done for like almost 20 years now. We're talking about the media. We talked about journalists who are being retaliated in all over. In Norway, it's a little bit different, I think. I think that the media, unfortunately, is paid by the government to be the voice of the government. So, as you say, I'm not very much impressed with the media in Norway. The last 6 years, we've had 37 vile convictions in the European Court of Human Rights in child welfare area. Hardly anyone in Norway knows about this because the media is not representing it to the people. So we have definitely double standards in Norway too. And the previous speakers were talking about retaliations in form of how dangerous it is to be a journalist in different countries around the world. Definitely it is so. But I will focus on the fact that it's also very dangerous to be a human rights defender in Norway. And I will bring forward two examples, one very young woman, 21 years of age, and one older man, 71 years of age. It's exactly 50 years in difference between these two human rights defenders. And both of them these days are facing severe prison terms for their fight against for the fight for democracy and against human rights violations. And I will start with this 21 years, since we are talking about the social media here. We'll talk about this 21-year-old woman who had great experience with the child welfare system in Norway herself, since she was taken by this system, separated from her family and put into foster home, which was clearly a fault by the government. But instead of making a repair and making a repair for the damages done to this family, they started to harass the family even more. And that brought this young woman at the age of 14, 15 to the social media platforms, especially using Facebook. And she started to expose what she claimed to be violations to her and her family, and also to other families. And simultaneously with this, we had all the convictions from the European court stating that this young woman was actually right when she was claiming these violations. So you should think that we should protect and salute human rights defenders like young people, especially young people like her, because it's extremely important for the younger generation to be encouraged and to be promoted when it comes to like fighting for human rights. However, what we have seen in harassment to this young woman is really horrible. She has to now once again go to the court on 11th of June, probably the fifth time in like 3 or 4 years, another criminal charges brought against her. And this time they will put her in prison for defamation public opinions on social media, especially because she is like focusing on the authorities and the people in power. So in Norway, the double standards are very, very interesting, because in Norway, we accept that the elite or the people in charge, they can basically get away with anything of violations or criminal offenses. Whereas when we see this young woman, age 21 now, we see that they take all means necessary to persecute and to harass, not only her, but also her family. And on 11th of June, I'm pretty sure that she has to face prison terms. That's one of the cases I would like to bring some attention to. And the other case is a 71-year-old guy, also a heroic person who has helped numerous families in Norway, tried to use social media to express his concern about the Norwegian system, and he faces exactly the same retaliation methods from the government that he now has. At the age of 71, he now has to face a 6 months prison term because he helped the family to flee to Poland, because that's one of the few countries in Europe where Norwegian families who are afraid of the Norwegian CPS system can flee to and to be safe. And now we're fighting. We brought the case to the European Court of Human Rights. The Norwegian government is not taking that into consideration at all. And they're trying to persecute these people by any means. So when we're talking about resilience, how can the people use social media to fight human rights abuses in their own countries? I think it's very interesting to observe that the double standards are immense. We've heard about, and the interesting part is how Norway, in contrast to a lot of other countries, have managed to manipulate the rest of the world to believe that we are a good country when it comes to we're a champion of human rights. I mean, as you may know, Norway has a European record when it comes to violating Article 8 in the European Court of Human Rights. 38 convictions only since September 2018, tells its own language. But for some reason, and that is a very clear message also to the OCE, that Norway and the Norwegian authorities have been able to bluff the entire world about what's going on here. And I think by presenting these two examples and see how these two people, one old, one young, have tried to expose themselves using social media, and how immense the pressure on these people have been due to the fact that they were trying to raise focus on human rights crimes in Norway. So we have to be, I mean, Norway is a small country. It's far up in the north. People think it's a rich country that do respect human rights. And it's very, very important to do not forget all the victims and who are suffering from trying to bring these human rights violations to the surface. So I'm very happy to be a part of this conference. I think that by bringing this message to the world, we can once again be able to at least make the government in Norway aware that they are being watched worldwide. And that's what I've been doing for the last 7-8 years, traveling worldwide to really bring focus upon human rights violations in my own country, because it's totally unacceptable for a rich country like Norway, or for any country for that matter, but but since I'm Norwegian, I'm speaking on behalf of my own country, to focus so much on human rights violations in other countries. Let me bring an example, since we are talking with the Polish people here as well, and the Polish Foundation. Right now, a few days ago, Norway changed its constitution to strengthen or to protect judges from being persecuted. And the reason why Norway wanted to change or to alter the constitution in order to protect the elite even more, which is contrary to what's the basic idea about the constitution, is because Norway have heard that the Polish system does not guarantee the independence of the judges in Poland without any knowledge. But it once again proves that Norway is designed for the elite, for a small group, where they have no problems to spend millions of dollars persecuting or harassing human rights defenders like this young woman or this elderly man, who are trying to the best of their ability to raise awareness worldwide about what's going on, and they're only met by prison terms or fines or whatever comes to the government's mind. So my focus entirely today is to bring that up to the topic once again, that we have to be, or the world has to be, more aware of what's going on in Norway, so that human rights defenders can feel more safe than what they're doing now. So basically, very happy to be a part of your seminar. Wish you all the best. Thank you for excellent presentations from the previous partners as well. I can only concur with their things. As an interesting thing, when we talk about being persecuted, I was also, and we're talking about spies. In 2016, December 2016, I was invited to Estonia to make a speech about the Norwegian CPS system. And of course, Norway is a big fundraiser for all these Baltic countries, spending billions to these countries. And of course, my presentation to the Estonian people was that we have our child welfare system in Norway is dangerous. They take children from perfectly well-capable families. The day after, I was presented in some of the biggest newspapers in Estonia as a spy for Putin as well. So I'm very familiar with what we've been talking about. And we have to keep on. We cannot live with these double standards. Human rights are the basic for everything that we do in this life. And that's why I think this is so important. And that's why I'm so grateful that at least I can bring some attention about this young woman and this old man who are now fighting for their justice in Norway, like many others. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marius. I'm only worrying that after this seminar, we all gonna be spies in some media. So hopefully not, but maybe it's gonna be. For sure, we're gonna be on Polish Twitter, Mark, as a Putin's disinformation or whatever, or this kind of. So let's move to another the best democracy, to less democracy, because Elizabeth is partly in Austria, partly in United States, where the big techs are helping us to fight with disinformation, the Facebook and all. Those are the corporations that help us to fight with this dissemination of the lie and whatever. So Elizabeth, could you give your short insight how it's in Austria and United States, and to summarize our event and also our conference today? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for having me speak here at your side event. I have to laugh because, once again, I was sitting in this plenary and I was wondering if I just went down the rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland, because I just can't believe everything that's been said, and I really want to talk a little bit about what I heard today and what is actually taking place, because what we heard was how it is so important that there is a functioning, and I'm quoting from the agenda, of truly functioning, pluralistic, independent media. And without that, you cannot have a rule of law-based democratic society. Now, pluralistic and independent media, especially here in Austria, I really don't think so. Media, most media, at least the legacy media, are dependent on some kind of money, usually taxpayer money, and as such, I really don't believe that once you receive taxpayer money, you can be independent. And if you can't be independent, and you're receiving taxpayer money, you know, how are we going to, how can we become media literate? Those are the buzzwords that we heard today. I raised the point in the plenary about fact checkers, but also about how can we form an opinion if we cannot access information. And when I talk about accessing information, I'm talking about information from both sides of a conflict, for instance. And of course, if we're talking about conflict, we're talking about the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia, with Russia's aggression against Ukraine. However, if I want to form an opinion, I need to be able to access media from both sides. And that means if I wanted to, I should also be able to, as someone living in the European Union, to listen to and to watch Russia Today. But the very European Union that is preaching to us that every European Union citizen has the right to freedom of speech and to receive information is actually banning an alternate view, which is Russia Today. So how am I going to find out what is the truth, or how can I form an opinion? I'm only able to access information that is provided, quote unquote, by what is permitted by the European Union. And for people who know me, I am never happy about somebody telling me what to read and not to read. I can't even use the words here, but you know, I'm 50 plus years old, and I think I know exactly where I can find my information and what I can consume, whatever it is. I'm not a child. I don't want to be living in a country or a European Union that is paternalistic. And that makes me very angry, especially when I read in the annotated agenda and when I have to listen to the OSCE in general telling me that, you know, in order to have La La Land and everything is wonderful, we need to have pluralistic and independent media. Where is that? And where can I find media that tells me both sides, presents to me both sides of the conflict? Because the conflict between Ukraine and Russia didn't just start in February of 2022. There's a long history, and I really would like to hear both sides here. I also asked who decides what is actually good information and bad information. And if we address that, what is good for whom? What is bad for whom? Of course, if you look at both sides of the conflict, again, Russia versus Ukraine, or Ukraine versus Russia, if you're in Russia and if you're, let's say, pro-Russian aggression against Ukraine, you're going to see good information, but on the other hand, what is good information for Russia is bad information for Ukraine and its allies, and that's totally understandable because it's, you know, it's both sides of the same coin. You know, who gets to decide? We also see a lot of the word challenges in the annotated agenda. Whenever I hear the word or read the word challenges, I keep thinking, well, maybe the challenges, it's just another word for a contradictory view, maybe something that the powers that be don't really want to hear? Could it be that facts that are disliked are sometimes or pretty much always labeled as disinformation? If you don't like what I say, you'll probably go out and say, oh, Ms. Sabaditsch-Wolff spoke a lot about disinformation, and she also provided disinformation, simply because maybe you don't like what I say. But if you look at the facts, 2 + 2 will always equal 4, no matter whether I say it or Michael Specjalski sitting next to me says it. 2 + 2 always equals 4. What else did I say? Yes, corrective. One of the keynote speakers of today's first session was a young lady from the fact-checker platform Correctiv from Germany, which broke the story of how there was a conspiracy meeting in the German city of Potsdam, and that the people there were planning to deport millions of people from Germany and in effect all of Europe. And Correctiv, of course, and I added that in my intervention, is a perfect example of a government outsourcing censorship efforts to evade finger-pointing and accusations of the very censorship. We have seen that very, very successfully done in the United States during the COVID crisis, where the US government colluded with social media to ban information about COVID that was not to the government's liking, not to Dr. Fauci's liking. And how do we know that this happened? Well, there's actually a lawsuit that is currently being tried in the United States, and it's now basically a legal fact that the United States government colluded with social media platforms to ban medical information and other information having to do with COVID. The virus itself, the vaccine, the so-called vaccine. 1 minute? Okay. And so we really have to look at all these measures of outsourcing censorship. Correctiv is, why do I say that Correctiv is a perfect example for government outsourcing censorship efforts? Because Correctiv itself, during the presentation today, said that they receive money from a ministry in Germany.
Education.
Ministry of Education, thank you very much. And that makes them a outpost of German censorship, even though it's not Germany itself. So very interesting what happened today. Let me also add one final point here. It is not the job of so-called fact-checkers like Correctiv to decide whether the opinions and assessments of other journalists are correct. The word fact-checker has also become a buzzword here. My facts, your facts, our facts, my truth, your truth. The truth is that 2 + 2 = 4, and that's what we need to agree upon. You can have your own opinion. If I don't like it, that's just bad luck. And if you don't like my opinion, please don't hate me for it. Just counter with your own facts and let's talk about it. Don't call me names, but let's talk about what I said that may not be correct. So all in all, finally, a very interesting first day here at the OSCE. Of course, we need to counter even more the current narrative that is playing out at the OSCE. But it's always good to be here and to be able to discuss important matters in a civilized manner. So thank you very much for having me, and freedom of speech must prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for summarizing also the first plenary sessions here in OSCE. I can give like a general remark because, of course, those who were on our side event, there wasn't as much diplomats they could and should be here. Maybe it's one of the cases that the speaker of this event misled others that we are in the other room. So it was disinformation. We spoke 1 hour, and in the end, she said that we are in another room. So this is maybe the reason that another not so much. But so thank you for those who are here and who was here. But and also when Elizabeth was making these remarks they were not in the scenario of this event, there wasn't any answer for those. So we can see that those people are saying about disinformation, misinformation, about securing the civil society, but they don't really want to speak about it. So and they're saying that there is no objective truth, that we can discuss facts and we can share opinions now. They said today there is a consensus truth, that there is we must set consensus between the governments, corporations, and NGOs. What is the truth? And those who are not willing to comply, I don't know, maybe they're gonna be jailed, like in Poland. So I don't think it's leading to some more democracy, but more autocracy and more totalitarianism in the heart of democracy in the OSCE, as we can see. So. Once more, thank you all that people that are gonna watch this video. Please share it, please like it on your platforms. I think we're gonna share it to our vloggers. That we're gonna show that there is still some people defending the objective truth and the right to seek information, critical information, and to have their own opinion, even of some critical issues like public health, armed conflicts, and other things. So once more, thank you, Elizabeth Sabaditsch-Wolff, Tomasz Jankowski here in Vienna, and of course our speakers online. So Dr. Mateusz Piskorski in Poland and Mariusz Reikeros in Norway. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Now we are moving this video to the channels.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You can also post it to my.
Yes. I'm gonna send you and the guys. We're gonna also translate it to Polish and to German maybe.
Perfect.
By AI. So we're gonna spread it. So.
Okay. Perfect.
So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank
You're
you,
very
Tomasz.
welcome. Good
Thank
job,
you guys.
everybody.
Okay.
Good job.
Bye.
Bye.
Mam nadzieję, że ten materiał Tobie się podobał. Jeżeli tak, to przede wszystkim udostępnij go, będę bardzo za to wdzięczny. I jakbyś chciał wesprzeć finansowo darowiznę na fundację, którą prowadzę, dowolną kwotą, będę Tobie bardzo zobowiązany, z tego względu będę widział, że jest zainteresowanie i także będę miał materialne podstawy, żeby tworzyć bardzo ciekawe materiały o wysokiej jakości merytorycznej i wizualnej. Bardzo dziękuję i oglądaj, subskrybuj mnie i oglądaj następne materiały, które będę wysyłał dla Was. Cześć.